Hello world, my name is Denominator and welcome to 2025. It's a brand new year, and that means it's time for me to get started on my next set of micro obsessions. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of different stuff since last year, experimenting with devices, trying out a bunch of new stream ideas. We built this whole thing on stream actually. Working on my model railroad, complaining about mega corporations, learning the automaton. Yeah, what better way to start out the new year than by complaining about my favorite company again, right? I know. I don't want this to be my bread and butter, but as a matter of fact, this might not be as critical as you think it would be. Yeah, today we're talking about Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, a game that you've probably heard of before and most likely never played, you know, it just happens to be that way sometimes. This is one of those mobile games that Nintendo released quite a few years ago, and it's actually been going strong for 7 years if you can believe it. But it seems that every dog has its day, and Isabelle is up on the chopping block, so yep, the game went offline forever at the very end of November 2024. How sad. However, something weird happened this time around. Nintendo announced that they would be releasing an offline paid version of the game, with all the mechanics intact and even adding a few features that were previously exclusive to a subscription tier in the free-to-play game. Yeah, I'm still kind of processing this. I don't know how to feel about this, man. This whole idea is just so foreign to me. I don't want to oversell it, but Nintendo kind of hates preservation. I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but they're constantly taking down ROMs of games that they can't even sell anymore. And that has been an ongoing thing with them for a long time, but these past couple of years, they have been brutal, taking down ROM sites that don't even have any of their major games, just getting after the obscure ROMs. And that whole thing to me is forever going to be stupid. So you can probably imagine why I've been so critical of them as of late. And that idea, that feeling, has not gone away and will probably never change. That said, the announcement of this offline version of what used to be a free-to-play online game kinda got me thinking a little bit. As in, what's the long game here? Nintendo has always been very into controlling how people play their games, and especially when people play their games, which is why NSO has been so successful. You know, they can drip feed ROMs to customers over months and even years, while people continuously beg for their favorite game to be added to the service. Will it be added? I don't know. You could have been emulating it by now, but this is just kinda how these online services work when it really comes down to whether or not the publishers of these games want their games to be put on NSO. And that's assuming they even remember they were published in the first place. I get it, game preservation is a big job, and I'm not saying Nintendo should put every single game that was ever released. I'm not expecting a full library from any of these consoles to be preserved. But that said, please don't be a jerk and stop taking down the games you can't sell anymore. That's stupid. And that is one of the reasons I have been so confused by this whole thing. Why would Nintendo go out of their way to preserve one of their online mobile games when they could probably be putting those resources into other things? As you might have noticed, Nintendo hasn't really been that busy on their mobile department as of late, so it's kind of confusing that they'd even bother with this at all. But I do have a theory. The whole idea of these games being taken offline but getting some way to play them in the future offline? Not a new concept. The European Union has been fighting for this for quite a while actually, and yeah, we can argue all day long about what Nintendo's actual reasoning for preserving these games are, but at the end of the day, I think it's kinda obvious they see the writing on the wall, and they don't want to be left in the dust when this thing eventually, possibly, goes into effect. And I mean, hey, all the better for us, right? We're the ones who are playing the games. We don't want these things to go offline forever, and even if they do, we would like a way to still be able to play them. I feel like that should be common sense, but apparently until Ubisoft took down The Crew, a lot of folks just didn't care. It didn't affect them. Well, now it is. And so seeing these changes go into effect for at least one publisher, especially one that is so controlling over when and how you play their games, I gotta be honest, it was a little exciting. Now that said, I wasn't simply going to give Nintendo a pass for doing this. I had a list of demands to give out, because I want to see this game be the best version of itself it can be, while still maintaining the fun that I had personally playing Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. And yes, I have actually played the game, but I do have a very short personal story about it. Basically, back when I got a smartphone in 2020, I did try out the game, but I don't know, man, it just didn't really stick with me. I think the gameplay loop at the time just wasn't really my thing, so at the end of the day, I dropped it after about 3 weeks and just kind of forgot about it. I kept playing Mario Kart Tour until recently, which I still pop out every now and then, but for the most part, I kind of don't bother with mobile games as much as I used to. It was a fun novelty for me when I first got a smartphone, but nowadays it's just kind of eh. But honestly, if I'm playing a mobile game, it's probably one of the free-to-play ones that doesn't have ads, and while it might have a difficulty curve or some kind of in-app purchase store, as long as it isn't too, you know, overselling me about it, if you get the idea, I'll probably keep up with the game for a while. And Mario Kart Tour, in my opinion, has done a pretty good job at that. That said, it's been a pretty long time since I invested any amount of interest into Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, and even a short time since I've cared about Animal Crossing. Yeah, I kinda haven't played New Horizons in a while, which is funny, because it was one of my favorite games of 2021, and now I barely open it. So, as you can imagine, an offline version of this game was gonna be a pretty hard sell for me. So, with that in mind, when Nintendo announced that they were making an offline version of the game, I decided to put together a list of needs and wants, a wish list if you will. And I know it probably sounds more like a list of demands to be met, but this is Nintendo we're talking about. Either they do the things that I'm hoping for with this kind of release, or I don't have an interest in buying it. So with that said, here's what I was hoping they would do. Number 1, the game needed to be fully offline. I wanted to ensure that if Nintendo was being serious about this offline thing, that the game couldn't just be taken offline for real if they ever decided that not enough people had purchased it or something. Number 2, I wanted to see a lot of the features included in the various Pocket Camp subscriptions, and yes, there were multiple subscription services for this game, could possibly be brought over into the paid offline version, basically allowing those features to be used without paying monthly. Number 3, I wanted a way for us to be able to view friends' campsites while being offline. In other words, a data sharing kind of thing, if you will. Maybe like Street Pass or something along those lines. And number 4, the game needed to be reasonably priced. $5 to $10 was my budget, and if they went over that, I basically was gonna have to say no to the release. I'm sorry, this is the mobile market, and you have to think of things like that. $10 is already asking quite a bit for most people because so many mobile gamers have gotten used to playing a free game with in-app purchases, not paying a sum up front. And yes, to a lot of people, $10 on a mobile app store is a large sum, although the in-app purchases notwithstanding, obviously. So I know that that is a pretty heavy list of demands to be met, and I wasn't expecting any of them, to be completely honest. I figured the app would be overpriced, would have some kind of catch as far as the offline thing goes, and probably a lot of other little disappointments that would build up over time. So I just kind of put the thought in the back of my head and decided, well, they're gonna kill the thing anyway. Might as well enjoy it for its last couple months. Yes, I was one of the many people who re-downloaded Pocket Camp when the announcement was made, but I waited until about the end of September. But that said, I still got about 2 months out of the game before it fully shut down. And in that time, we did indeed get an entire trailer that might as well have been a Nintendo mini direct stating everything. Like, basically everything. There were a couple of little miniature details missing for hardcore players of the game to be questioning for a while, but for the most part, this announcement trailer was handled very well, actually. No, like, almost no notes. I was very impressed. It did answer pretty much all of my questions, and that said, I had a couple concerns regarding some of the things they announced, and unfortunately not all of my demands were actually met. So, as you can imagine, there's ups and downs to this whole thing. Alright, so first off, let me go over a couple of things about the original Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, alright? So this game was originally free to play, it had in-app purchases, and multiple subscription tiers, if you can believe it. And this is, to my knowledge, the only game that has multiple subscription tiers. Then yeah, that whole thing I consider to be a problem in of itself. But anyway, let's talk about the basics first. Animal Crossing Pocket Camp is essentially a Animal Crossing New Leaf Light, if you will, or maybe even a New Horizons Light. There's elements of both games in here. Basically, you do a bunch of menial tasks for various animals that can eventually be added to your campsite, and from there you can help to make them happy by delivering stuff to them, finding lost items, and the whole thing revolves around raising your friendship level. And this is an interesting idea, but I feel like it kind of makes the animals even less important than they've ever been. Like, the personalities and stuff are very basic in New Horizons. And if you thought that the dialogue with them was uninteresting in that game, you are not gonna care for the dialogue here. There is so little going on, and some characters even repeat the same things as other characters when you do certain things for them, to the point where I kind of just started skipping the dialogue. This is a very basic game in terms of personality, which is annoying because yes, it's a mobile Animal Crossing, and Animal Crossing used to have a lot of personality, but at the end of the day, this is meant to be a bite-sized experience, so, you know, almost every part of it is a little simpler, so just keep that in mind as we go along. The next thing to talk about is bells and leaf tickets. These were the two currencies of the game, and yeah, you already know where this is going. Bells can be earned pretty easily through just doing menial tasks and helping out animals, and the leaf tickets are fed to you at a flipping drip feed. Yeah, I was not a big fan of this during my 2 months of playing the game pretty frequently. As a matter of fact, by the end of my time, I was kind of happy to be rid of them. These things suck, man. And it really is more than just the idea of how often they're fed to you. When you get them, we're talking like 3 to 5, when some items in the game cost multiple hundreds of these things. It's ridiculous. You can dress up your campsite with a bunch of items and stuff, and some of them cost leaf tickets, but the real big ticket items, for lack of a better word, are the terrains that give your campsite a whole new look, and they're all animated. Think of it almost like a live wallpaper for your phone or something. These cost a ridiculous amount of leaf tickets, to the point where I just did not care. I didn't even bother purchasing a single one of these. And yeah, that was one of the worst impressions that I ever had for a secondary currency in a video game. I'm sorry, but this is not okay. The amount of leaf tickets that you're given versus the amount that certain things cost, the game wants you to spend money, 100%. And if Animal Crossing is going to be such a big item collecting game, and your main reward for playing is essentially getting items that you can place in your campsite and making the perfect campsite that you want, yeah, this drip feed is very, very far from acceptable, and I'm kind of glad that this system went away. Granted, it is still there in the new version of the game, but it's much more rewarding, and we will get back to that. The next thing that you need to know is that this game is simple. I've kind of gone over that a couple of times, but while they did add a bunch of different things you can do, such as mining for materials to get bells and other rewards, and certain seasonal events and seasonal items, and they even added a battle pass structured reward system every month. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe this ended up in Animal Crossing. Yeah, this is still a very simple game, and that means if you are dedicating a lot of time trying to get the best rewards possible, they want you to play this game a pretty stinking long amount of time, and very frequently too. We're talking checking in with the game like every 3 hours and doing things for at least 15 minutes to get the most out of it. That is a lot of time to spend in a day on a mobile game, and I'm sorry if I'm coming across as whiny, but I really was trying to get the most out of this thing until it went offline, so I wanted to see how people have been experiencing it. Needless to say, I was a little disappointed, and by the end of those 2 months, I was kind of over the thing, to be honest. Now that said, I did have some fun with this game, And I think a lot of it did come down to the social aspect, which we'll get into here, but you kind of do have to get the most out of it that you want to. Like, I wanted to make a railroad themed campsite and I ended up being pretty happy with how that turned out. You gotta set those goals for yourself because otherwise the experience gets stale very fast. And I think that's why the game didn't click for me at first when I was originally playing it, right? But that said, a lot of those features didn't exist back in 2021, so I can at least say that over time, the developers were trying new things. I'd like to think that Nintendo was the ones who said you got to add the battle pass and the multiple subscription tiers. Right? Sorry guys, I still can't believe I'm talking about that in an Animal Crossing game. But at the very least, I can see they were trying. A lot of the items you can earn, even through natural means without the leaf tickets, look pretty cool. They're animated, they've got a bunch of different effects that they can apply to your campsite. There's just a lot of fun things you can do. But again, if you're not setting goals for yourself that you want to get out of the game, it'll wear on you pretty quickly, which, to be honest, is one of the problems I ended up having with New Horizons. So, at the very least, I'm glad that a lot of things in this game can be done quicker than in New Horizons. You can pick up and place material or furniture with the touchscreen of your phone. Be cool if we could do that on the Switch, but I guess the technology just hasn't progressed far enough for that. I'm sorry, I know I'm complaining about a totally different game now, but gosh, that got on my nerves. So many things in New Horizons should have been able to be done with the touchscreen. This game is kind of closer to New Leaf in that way, where it feels like it's taking full advantage of the system, or in this case, the hardware that it's on. And I kind of love it. Yeah, you move your character by dragging around a finger and everything, but you know what this game actually feels really nice to play with? A stylus. Yeah, I've been playing this on my S23 Ultra and even my Galaxy Tab S7 for a little while there, and I really enjoyed this actually. It's the way that I still play it nowadays. Yeah, I'll use my fingers sometimes, but the game just feels so right to play with a stylus. Like it was always made to be like the 3DS title, but with a little more flourishes and a few more of those online mobile games added to it. Which I know doesn't sound great, but just walking around and picking stuff up is simple and sometimes fun when you know you're working towards a bigger goal, and the stylus just makes it a little more fun to me. I will say if for some reason you were kind of not jiving with the way that you move around, I would try with a capacitive stylus, or if you have one built into your phone, trying it that way, because it is actually kind of comfortable, and it almost feels like the game was meant to be played that way. The only other thing to really talk about with the game, which I did mention earlier, is the social aspect. And granted, there wasn't actually that much to do in it, but given an external platform, it actually became something kind of amazing. So back when I was getting into the game, I started out at about level 20. So I guess I had done a couple of things and gotten the friendship level up with a few villagers back when I played it in 2021. And by the time that the game was going offline at the end of November, that September to November 2-month period, I actually got myself up to level 150. However, there's one reason that I got there so fast in the early days, and that was the market box system. For those who don't know, this used to be a feature where you could essentially list items that you had collected, such as materials or food or fish or bugs, and put them up for sale at a certain price threshold that you want. You could charge a lot or you could charge a little. And people from around the world who also played Animal Crossing Pocket Camp could buy them from you. That's pretty neat. It's really the only social aspect the game had. You could also visit each other's campsites, but sadly that's not a thing in Complete anymore. But this system made the game really interesting because there is a very active Animal Crossing Pocket Camp Discord, and they talk about market boxes all the time. So when I was getting back into this game in September, I decided to look up the Discord, and I found one. I joined it, and so many people there are so nice. This is probably the friendliest Discord of this size that I've ever been to. People were so willing to sell me certain materials that I needed, or help me get certain kinds of food, or they would just like sell me really high bell items at a lower price that I could then sell through the game itself, which would eventually, earn me more bells to help me out as I was starting out the game. And I have to say, really appreciated how the market box system actually got me to reach out to a Discord that turned out to be a great place to just hang out and chill and talk to other people playing the game and ask for tips. There were so many experienced players who were at this thing for all 7 years, and they're answering questions about like what items are in certain cookies, how I could put together a certain campsite layout using a very specific item they only knew about because there's like over 10,000 items in the game. This was one of the most positive online gaming experiences I ever had now that I think about it. Outside of something like Mario Kart, that's really interesting. And it's not because of how Nintendo chose for me to play the game, it's how other people chose to play the game and interact with each other outside of it. And that to me is just kinda neat. Yet, like, yeah, there's still a friend code system and everything, but people were exchanging friend codes and now they're exchanging the new Pocket Camp cards in this same Discord. And this whole idea just surprised me in a way that I didn't expect to be, where I realized, you know, Nintendo's mobile games can have some value when they want to. They just need a little more effort placed into the ways that players interact with each other so the thing doesn't get stale. And you know what? The mobile games have actually done an okay job at that, partially because the online is free and it actually works. But that's a Switch Online conversation for another day. That said, by the time the game was finally going offline and everybody was chatting about it in the Discord and finishing all the final events, admittedly, I was getting a little tired of it, but only because I was trying to get the most out of these events because I knew it would be the last time while the game was offline and it would play slightly differently. So, you know, that was mostly on me. But that said, I did actually try one thing that I didn't expect to, and that was a subscription tier. Now, hang on, I can explain myself. I use this thing called Google Opinion Rewards, and granted, I probably shouldn't be advertising it, but it's a pretty easy way to earn Google Play credit, and it's the only way that I earn Google Play credit. I don't hook up any credit cards to my accounts on pretty much anything. I earn what I can, or I plug a gift card into one of my accounts because that way I'm spending as much as I plan to and nothing more. I did end up having enough Google Play credit from rewards and a few other things that I was able to get into the Merry Memories plan for $1.99 a month. And of course, I had like $2 total, right? So by the time the month was out, I just automatically had the trial canceled and I was totally fine with that. Yep, it was a subscription tier. It got me more rewards. Wasn't enough to get me any of the big premium stuff, so yeah, I really hope there weren't a lot of whales for this game, because if you guys spent a lot, I am so sorry. So the game went offline at the end of November, end scene, and for a few days, nobody was playing Pocket Camp. The login screen would simply take you to an ad for Pocket Camp Complete. I didn't think that I would like this game as much if it switched to a single player experience because of how helpful stuff like the market box had been. You know what? This new version of the game is pretty good. Yeah, I know, I wasn't expecting to say that either, but I actually really enjoy the rebalancing here. The game has so many really nice little improvements. For one, it is mostly offline, although apparently the game will check in every now and then to see if you've time traveled. Not a big fan of that, and apparently you can also occasionally open internet communication to do a few other things, like check your Nintendo account is linked. That's only if you're uploading save data and whatever. And the fact that they're letting you do that for a while, uploading save data to put it on another device if you want to transfer data, okay, fine, whatever. But that said, it is not a fully offline game, and I do have to knock it a point for that. However, the next thing I have to say is much more positive. Oh my gosh, the game is so much more rewarding now. The new system is called Leaf Tokens. They are the exact same thing. They buy you the exact same upgrades, but you get a much greater amount of them for doing small tasks throughout the campsite and across the entire game, and you get them so much more often, and you get so many of them. I almost never had more than 100 or so of those Leaf tickets back in the original game, and that was barely enough to get you one item of choice that's like really fancy or whatever. Now, I have a few thousand leaf tokens, and they are useful in a lot of different ways. I've been saving them up by playing the events and getting into other certain parts of the game that now reward you with tokens where before you didn't get tickets or anything from them. This system is so much better. It takes so much of the stress off of, oh, I gotta play all of these events by the end of the month or I'm gonna lose the exclusive content. And one of the reasons that you have less worrying to do about that is another system called complete tickets. Yeah, they just straight up added 2 major menus to the game that let you buy any cookie that you want, which is unfortunately the gacha system, or any item from one of the seasonal events that you want right away. That's fantastic. I can't believe they actually thought to include something like that. This is a wonderful system, and the complete tickets are almost like the leaf tickets of the original game because you get them a lot less frequently, so you need to be really careful about where to use them. But the fact that you can get any seasonal item and a bunch of cookies at the same time is a pretty good idea. Now that said, there is one thing that I wish they had changed about this system, and that is giving you multiple cookies for a single complete ticket because this is gacha after all. You get random items every time and there is no greater probability if you buy a lot of cookies or something like that. It is always the same probability of getting the item you want every time. And it's like, 2 or 5% or whatever. Yeah, it's exactly what you think it is. And just the fact that you can use the complete tickets if you want to is great, but I wish you could get a little more per ticket because when you're buying a seasonal item, you're getting the exact thing you want every time, right? So it is a little weird, but I'm glad this system exists. I didn't think they would put in anything like that. Another positive thing I have to talk about: seasonal events. They are so much easier to complete now, and part of that is because the Happy Helper, which used to be a subscription exclusive for some reason, is now baked into the game. You can just pick an animal if you want them to help you out and, check in with them every day. I think it's like every 24 hours, they'll get the max amount of stuff that they can. They'll complete tasks for you and help out certain animals to get you a bunch of materials, and they'll catch bugs and fish or even seasonal items that help you unlock other seasonal items. You can turn the feature on or off. You don't have to use it, but the fact that it's there, it kind of adds like the idle simulator part of the game, if you get me. And I know that that can be like an iffy thing for people because, hey, you want to play the game to play the game. So the fact that you can turn that on or off is a great feature, and I'm really glad they added that in. But yeah, as I've said, this makes all of the seasonal events a lot easier to complete, and they reward you with a ton of leaf tokens that you can then use on the terrain, and all of those have been lowered in price. So many of the items that used to be ridiculously expensive before are now fewer leaf tokens, and you're getting more of the tokens. It really is amazing what just a little bit of rebalancing did for a game that otherwise could be quite frustrating if you were going for something specific. And I know that that was part of the idea, right? It's the fear of missing out because you want to make sure that people get as much of that currency as possible. And if they don't have enough, oh, there's the shop, you can just buy it right there. But how do you rebalance a game that's losing access to that online shop? You make the game more rewarding for doing less. It makes so much sense, and I'm so glad that they did it this way. It really works for me. Another feature they added is called Whistle Pass, which is essentially where a bunch of your random friends can gather during the day, and they'll give you like one present with a couple of random gifts in it per day, and you can ask them to help you out at the quarry, which is a thing you can still do, and that has actually been, I believe, more rewarding as well because they've added more materials that weren't available previously. That's really cool. But Whistle Pass is basically Nintendo trying to give you the social aspect of the game back, although to be honest, it only does so much. There are these camper cards that you can scan QR codes for, and it'll show, your friends and the animal they've chosen to be their helper, and that's kind of it. You can't visit previous friends' campsites, and I wish, since, that data was already on our save data, that we could have at least had those friends' campsites. I know that putting an entire campsite in a QR code for new friends would have been hard, but whatever. I guess, to be honest, I wasn't visiting other people's campsites that much anyway. It would have been nice to do that with our previous friends that we had online, but nah, whatever. At the end of the day, it's not a big loss, and I do like that the friends are still able to reward you and help you, even if it does feel a little disingenuous, But yeah, outside of those things, I don't have a lot much more to say about Pocket Camp Complete. It's just a new version of the game that's pretty good. And that's so weird to me because I figured that there would be more issues to talk about, you know, or at least more changes to surprise you, but no, the seasons have just kind of been reworked to have a specific amount of things going on per month, and you know when they're about to come up because it all runs on a schedule that repeats in the same way per month. So you get to pick when you want to play these things and if you want to play these things, and if you miss it, you can still get some of the seasonal items from the complete catalog, and you can just play the thing how you want. You can just chill out and play the chill game. Hey, hello, Denom and editor, post-recording here. I just realized that there are two major things that I forgot to mention about the new version of Pocket Camp, and the reasons for that are kind of obvious in hindsight, but the first is that you can actually exchange bells for leaf tokens as well. You can only do like up to 100 leaf tokens a month, so that's why I forgot about it. You just kind of do it at the start of the month and that's it, but that's a nice little perk. The other one is actually kind of more substantial, and it's about crafting. In the original game, as you're collecting those materials from doing things for animals, you earn, you know, those materials to craft items, and those are the items that go in your campsite. But the crafting times often meant that you had to wait for things to finish crafting, and I guess because I purchased the Merry Memories plan with that Google Play credit during the last month I had with the game, most things were crafted for me pretty much instantly, and I forgot that that was even a mechanic to begin with. You just hit the button in the shop and then bam, your thing is crafted and ready to go. In this new version of the game, you can use leaf tokens to permanently decrease crafting time by that 24 hours, and I completely forgot about it because I just did it once after I had enough tokens, and I never had to worry about it again. This isn't something you have to like feed the game monthly either. This is a permanent perk, to the point where like you almost never have to wait for anything to craft, and so the crafting tables, there's 3 of them in the game, are pretty much useless. It's really weird to me because Pocket Camp at one point, to a lot of people, was a kind of stressful experience because it asked so much of you to get the things that you wanted out of it, and that feels like the antithesis of a Animal Crossing game, doesn't it? You know, just saying it out loud, I feel like that's never what the point of the series was, so to say that this offline version has restored that feeling when playing an Animal Crossing game, that's kind of the highest compliment I can give it. But okay, so there's one thing that I've neglected to mention till now, and you probably know what it is. It's the price. Look, I knew that this was probably going to be the hardest demand to meet given the thing I was asking of them. This is Nintendo, they know they're worth a lot of money, and by extension, they like to make us feel like their franchises are worth a lot of money. Now I get this is a big thing with the gaming industry as a whole, but when you're hopping into the mobile market, you gotta really think about how you're pricing your products, and I wish I could say that I was completely satisfied with the route they went down, but no. The answer to my final demand, how much will this thing be worth? Will it be $5 or $10? The answer is yes and no. So as it turns out, the game has been $10 ever since it launched in December. And you know what? Fine. Honestly, that is not a bad way to go about things. $10, I know it might seem a little steep in the mobile market, but for an offline paid version of the game you can keep forever, that's fine. I can live with that. What I can't live with is what they're doing at the end of January. By the time this video goes up, it will probably be a few days until Nintendo bumps the price from $10 to $20. And guys, I'm sorry. Why would you do that? Why would you ruin this brand new perception of preservation by raising the price after people have already bought the game and told people good things about it? To me, this almost feels like Nintendo pulling back at the last second and realizing, oh shoot, we're losing that feeling of fear of missing out from people. We gotta add that back in somehow. How do we do it? It's an offline game that people buy once and keep forever. Shoot, what do we do? Oh, that's it. We'll encourage people to buy it now instead of waiting later when they have to buy the game for double the price. Double $10 on an app store. Think about that. And look, I don't mean to harp on this too much, but if you're going to show people that you care about them being able to play your games on their terms, please don't do this. Please don't do this for any future products. Sell a game at a price and commit to it. Don't go doing this pulling back at the last minute thing and make people feel like, well, shoot, the game's overpriced now. I could have gotten it before. I guess I'll just be sad now. That's not a good way to go about things. Do you want people to buy the game or not? And I know it makes it sound like it sours the whole experience despite the other things I've mentioned, like the very little bit of online use and the lack of market boxes or friend stuff. But like, this shouldn't be a big deal. This should be a cut and dry answer. How much is the game priced? Is it $10? Is it $20? That is how it should be to me, and unfortunately, they went overboard here. And I think that this little bit of hubris is gonna kill a lot of people's interest in the game. It's been selling well. There are people who never played Pocket Camp before that are buying this because it looks like a nice game that they can buy once and keep forever on their phone and play whenever the heck they want. I love that. That's great. Doing this thing at the very end is asking a little much, and I'm just gonna say it. $20 is way too steep. My guess is it's never going to go on sale after the price jump, and that to me just feels like a very skeevy way to end things. Please don't do this to your customers in the future. I like this idea of preserving games to be played offline, especially if they're the mobile ones that are only playable online, which to me has always been a stupid idea, but please, treat your customers better. Do not be like every other company that used to be your whole thing. Be better, Nintendo. I've been talking about Animal Crossing Pocket Camp for over half an hour. Oh, goodness. Guys, I hope it doesn't feel like I'm being negative here, because I'm not. If you had save data in Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, and this video has somehow convinced you that the game is worth playing, by all means, please go enjoy it. But by the time this video goes up and you see it, if it's already $20, please think very carefully if this is the kind of Nintendo you want to support. Because I know it's a great deal that they're even doing this, and I'm very grateful, but I'm not just gonna bend over and let them do that kind of thing to new players. Because by the time that this price jump goes out, most people who already had save data that wanted to keep playing the game have already bought the thing. So Nintendo is marketing this as a brand new $20 Animal Crossing game to new players who may or may not have played a game in the series before. On a phone. Guys, I don't want to alarm you, but you could emulate the original Animal Crossing on your phone. It's very capable. All of them are by now. And I don't mean to harp on the price thing, but it really does leave a bad taste in my mouth. And you know what? Despite that, I would still recommend the game. It's crazy, right? I shouldn't be saying that, but if you can get it at a decent price, I would buy it. I don't know if it'll ever go on sale after the $20 price jump, but at $10, this is a pretty okay experience. I know that this has been a much longer video than it probably should be, and I apologize for that, but I think it is worth talking about because, again, with my original video talking about games and ownership and piracy and emulation, we as the players want to be able to play the games we've purchased to keep and play them whenever we want. It's just how I roll. It's how a lot of other people see things. And this idea is not a bad one. If Nintendo did this for Mario Kart Tour, I would scoop that up immediately. Granted, after that, there wouldn't be a lot of other mobile games of Nintendo's that could be playable in an offline state if they came back, but you know, that does get people thinking about that idea. And what if Nintendo decided to bring back a few of the other games that they had previously taken offline forever, like Dragalia Lost or Dr. Mario World? You know, these don't have to be major decisions, and it's not like the game majorly changed after it was released in an offline state. They just rebalanced a few things about the original Pocket Camp that worked, and they kept it going. This is really, really good. And I just wish the price was staying the way it was, because then it would be an absolute sell for anybody to me. And I wish I could say that it's an 100% recommendation, but because of the price jump, I'm gonna have to do some reverse math and say that I half recommend Pocket Camp. only if you are a major Animal Crossing fan, you like seeing this part of the history of it, and you don't mind shelling out 20 bucks for it, because I will tell you right up front, this game is not worth $20. 15 at best, 10 is reasonable. We need to continue putting the pressure on companies to preserve the products that they take offline. You shouldn't have to lose access to a game because it can't be played with the internet anymore. That doesn't make any sense. And if the European Union keeps fighting for it, I'll keep fighting with them, and I'll keep making videos like this when companies decide to take their games and give them new versions that people can play after a one-time purchase forever. That to me is the future of gaming, because if we don't have that, then emulation is our future. And I'll do that too any day. But for a game like this, I was willing to pay 10 bucks for it. And I'm glad that people are enjoying Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. The general reception in the Discord, that I'm in anyway, has been very positive. And a few people have been considering getting the game and even convinced to get the game because they heard how much it's improved since the offline version launched. That's great. And I can only hope that we're in for more things like that in the future. Here's to the future, right? Until next time, this is Dan Ominator signing off. See you later, Ominators. Until next video. Bye.